Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo, star of stage, screen, and TBS. Alanna, we're going to start off today talking about something that probably isn't going to happen at all.
I tell you what, it seems like it is the talk of the town, Ken Rosenthal. Everyone in our industry is talking about it, but you are about to pour some cold water all over this nonsense.
Well, I wouldn't call it nonsense because the question of whether the Pirates should trade Paul Skenes is a legitimate question. I just don't see how it happens at this juncture, and I'm going to explain why as clearly as I possibly can. First of all, the Pirates just fired their manager. Their general manager, Ben Cherington, might not be back after this year. It's his sixth year, just as it was Derek Shelton's sixth year. And if you're Bob Nutting, the owner of the team, and you're expecting progress this year, he's on record as saying that, and there's no progress, and it's sixth year of Ben Cherington's tenure, what is the likelihood that he will be retained after this year? I would say probably not good. And if you're Bob Nutting and you're assessing all this and you're even thinking about trading Paul Skenes, you might be thinking, why am I going to let a GM that I might let go trade the franchise pitcher when the next GM, that should be his call? So that's reason number one, that I don't think this is feasible at all. Reason number two, strictly from a baseball value perspective. Juan Soto, when he was traded from the Nationals to the Padres, had 2+ years remaining. Paul Skenes has 4+ years remaining. And you remember the return for Soto. It was one of the great returns in trade history. It included C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, and of course, James Wood. You're going to get even more than that for Paul Skenes. You're going to find a team willing to do that? Maybe. I just doubt it, as protective as teams are of prospects today. So if you're talking about the Red Sox, just as an example, Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony, you probably have to start there, and I don't know that the Red Sox want to do that, even for Paul Skenes. And finally, with Paul Skenes, what would the message look like if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you've had 6 straight losing seasons, you're working on your 7th, and then you trade the best thing about your team, period. You've already had PR disasters this year with the taking down of the Roberto Clemente sign, the ceremonial bricks that you screwed up with as well. Obviously, those are off-field issues. This is an on-field question. And I guess if you could make a great trade for a team that can't hit, yes, they could use some offensive players. If you could do that, okay. But again, that goes back to the value question, and I just don't see it happening. The message would be horrible. The value would not be enough. And the GM that would be making the trade might not be your GM much past the end of this season. So I just don't see it happening. I guess if you're the Pirates and you're worried Paul Skenes is going to blow out any minute, which I guess is a fair concern for any team with any pitcher, then maybe you consider it. But really, for all the reasons I just stated, Alanna, I don't see this happening.
Yeah, speaking of blowing out, Jared Jones obviously going to the IL with surgery for him as well. But is Paul Skenes, Ken, always a tradable piece? I mean, is this something that they're thinking, okay, we got to think about the value. Do they wait until he only has 2 years left instead of 4+ years? Is he always going to be on the trading block in their mind?
Here's another thought, Alanna. What if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates and you actually try to build around Paul Skenes? How
What
about
a
that
thought!
concept?
What a
What a thought.
concept, Ken.
And Mark Feinsand pointed this out on MLB.com today, and it was a really good point. The Tigers 2 years ago with Tarek Skubal, they weren't in a good place, and yet here they are. They've built themselves into something formidable. In fact, best 50-game record in baseball right now. So if you're the Pirates, that's what you should be doing. You should be building around Paul Skenes, not thinking about trading him. They didn't do much in the offseason at all when they had, again, this franchise pitcher and going into his first full year. I just don't understand the way they operate. Neither do a lot of people in baseball.
Yeah, I can't believe that it's even a topic of conversation. He's one of the most, exciting players right now. But, if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, maybe you're looking to get something back instead of build around your current team. Paul Skenes is going to be a lot of fun to watch, Ken, for a very long time. Let's talk a little bit, though, about the all-century club, if you will. I mean, this is a quarter-century team that we're talking about. So the Athletic did a nice piece about who would you put on your quarter-century team. That's a lot of unbelievable players to kind of process, Ken. What would you do in this?
Well, I know fans are going to have a lot of fun with this. And in fact, at The Athletic, we invite fans to pick their own players, and there's going to be considerable debate over all of them. The one that stood out to me, and the one of many that will generate controversy, is Altuve at second base. Now, he is the best second baseman, I would expect people to think, of this quarter century. The question becomes, okay, what about the cheating scandal? Now, as Jason Stark wrote, he only had a very hazy association with that scandal. He was the one guy the Astros players said, no, 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 he was not involved. There is data to suggest as well, or to reinforce that he was not involved. And yet fans associate him, perhaps more than any player, with the scandal simply because he's the face of the team. So if you're going to include Altuve on this team, then as Jason later gets into, what about some of the PED players? Robinson Cano at second base is not Jason's choice there. The one PED guy that he did include was Barry Bonds. He did not include A-Rod, and Bonds, because he participated or played at a time when there was not testing and penalties. Jason just said, listen, this is the best player we've seen, and he's going to be on my team. All debatable. It's the whole question that, of course, revolves around the Hall of Fame candidacies of these players as well. Do you include them or not? And that, to me, is probably the most difficult debate that's going to come out of this. We can have some other debates, Alanna, and I know you have one thought as well about this team and who you might have excluded and included.
Yeah, and I also want our listeners and our viewers, Ken, to get involved in this because, as you mentioned, The Athletic is encouraging people to participate and put together their own all-quarter century team. Kyle Johnson was saying, I like Utley over Altuve. So continue to get those questions in, guys, because Grillin Ken is coming up here on Fair Territory. I think there's a good question to ask in terms of Aaron Judge, Ken Rosenthal, or Mookie Betts. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you can go on either side. Obviously, Aaron Judge is unbelievable, right? 2 MVPs. He has, so many different historic milestones already in his unbelievable career. But Mookie Betts, now, if you consider him just a right fielder, this is a guy that also has 3 World Series under his belt. Aaron Judge is still searching for his first. Now, you could also say that perhaps that's not an individual problem. That's an organizational problem, and that's more of a Yankees issue than an Aaron Judge issue. But you also have to look at the fact that Mookie Betts can play the infield as well. I mean, he's one of the most versatile athletes in the game, not just on the Dodgers, not just on the Red Sox when he was over in Boston, but just a versatile athlete. So if you look at it from just a right field perspective, is that Aaron Judge? If you look at it as an overall perspective of a right fielder that can play the infield, that has 3 World Series under his belt, it's interesting to look at. But this is a type of situation, Ken, that we could debate until the cows come home because everybody thinks that they have the right answer when it comes to this. But I mean, think about it. Derek Jeter at shortstop, of course, a lot of people don't think that Derek Jeter was really good defensively. So there's just a lot of different things that you could argue. It's always fun to have the conversation. One thing that we talk about is I would probably put Utley over anybody at second base just because Utley, for me, has always been a gamer. And his former club, Ken, the Philadelphia Phillies, they're playing out of their mind right now. Had a good week despite the Alvarado situation. What is making the Phillies so hot?
Well, for starters, Alanna, I would suggest their schedule of late has been kind of easy. Now they're 18-5 in their last 23. You cannot take that away from them. You have to win the games against the opponent in front of you. Last 6 have been against the Rockies and the Pirates. So, okay, they should be winning those games, and they are. Also in this stretch, they've played Tampa Bay, they've played Cleveland, they've played Washington. It's been a little breather for them in the schedule, but this is, from an offensive standpoint, one of the best teams in the league. They're 6th in the majors in runs per game. Their rotation, as we know, is one of the best in the game as well, 4th in rotation ERA. The question going forward is going to be the bullpen, and the loss of Alvarado only highlights that. They probably were going to need at least one reliever, even with Alvarado, and now losing that left-handed presence, one of the hardest throwing lefties in the game, they're going to be a team that is definitely going to be in search of bullpen help at the deadline. It's possible that if their rotation stays healthy, come the playoffs, they could use Ranger Suarez in the bullpen as they've done in the past. It gets a little dicey because Suarez is eligible for free agency, but again, he has done it in the past, and I can't see that hurting his market if he closes out a World Series.
I mean, this is a team that I would run through a wall for. I love Kyle Schwarber. I love Bryce Harper. You look at Kyle Schwarber, 10 home runs, 21 RBI over the stretch, Ken, that you were just talking about. But let's look a little deeper into the numbers. And we don't talk about him enough because he was scuffling in March and April. And that is the services of Alec Bohm. This guy's had a very up and down career so far with the Phillies. But you think about, Ken, what he did in March and April, just a 221 average, of 521 OPS, just 5 extra base hits. He had the 4 doubles and the 1 triple bagger, an 8 RBIs. But in May, something has changed for Alec Bohm. A 333 average, an 884 OPS, 5 extra base hits with the 2 doubles and the 3 home runs. I looked into it a little further. He's not hitting the ball harder, Ken, in terms of March and April to May, but his strikeout rate is down and he's being a lot more selective at the plate. So for whatever reason, Alec Bohm seems to have it figured out. So you expect the Kyle Schwarbers of the world and the Bryce Harpers of the world, and to a certain extent, the JT Realmutos and so on and so forth. But Alec Bohm, who was an all-star last year, Ken, seems to be figuring out a little bit.
He's an enigmatic player. There's no doubt about that. And remember, in the offseason, they were talking about possibly trading him, and they never found really a market that developed for Alec Bohm because teams don't see him as special. They see him as kind of an average player. But he has above average capability. And as you just pointed out so well, he is showing that again in this particular month. So for the Phillies to go where they want to go, yes, they need Alec Bohm to be better. They need Brandon Marsh to be better. They need a more complete, full lineup than they've had at times. Right now, their hot guys are their big guys, Turner and Schwarber and Harper, as you mentioned. But yes, they need to be a 1 through 9 threat, and they're looking more like that in this particular run.
Yeah, I love the Phillies. It's always good to see them, and I love what Rob Thompson's doing with that team. And Dombrowski will always go out and get somebody special to help that team at the deadline. Much more to come here on Fair Territory. Of course, get those questions in for Grillin Ken. We'll be back right after this break.
Kratz, I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret. I am not a fan of carrying around physical cash. I go Cash App, where you can send, receive, or transfer money with family and friends. It's super easy. They've got your back too. Like if you're trying to send some money and you maybe put in the wrong account name, they'll be like, hey, this is a sketchy account. Are you sure you want to send this? Cash App has your back. They do it safe, securely, easily, and fee-free.
And all you got to do is download the app, and Scott can actually pay for his half of dinner.
Exactly. For a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, there's no catch. Download Cash App, sign up. It's very easy, and use our exclusive referral code Territory in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App.
All right. Appreciate always those Grillin Ken questions. And the first question for you, Ken Rosenthal, is in regards to the San Diego Padres. I guess the quickest thing is, are they going to sell trade deadline landing spots for Dylan Cease, Michael King, Nick Pivetta, Luis Ariz, Robert Suarez, Jason Adam, Fernando Tatis Jr.? I don't know. I mean, I think the Padres are still very much in the thick of it. Are they not?
They've lost 5 straight. They're 3-7 of the last 10. They've hit a low. This is still one of the better teams in the game. So is it possible one of the potential free agents might go if A.J. Preller concocts some kind of big monster deal? I guess, but I don't see them as sellers, that's for sure. And basically that questioner had them trading the whole team. I don't see that happening. Could I see...
Well, Machado is still there, I guess.
Machado was still there. Tatis was gone. Could I see them maybe spinning one of the pitchers who's a potential free agent? I guess, except you need those guys to go where you want to go. They've talked about Cease and King and Ariz in the offseason. Robert Suarez the same, but I just don't see it. Even in some kind of fantasy world where A.J. Preller is doing something really big, he could do it. He's the one guy who could do it. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, AJ Preller and Jerry DePoto. They like to do those things. And I tell you what, the next question, Ken, is from DePoto's team. Should the Mariners continue to wait and develop their prospects, or trade them to get better this year and make a run? This question coming from Tyler Clemenson.
they've got some really interesting offensive prospects coming. And I don't expect, given the way they've run their team the last few years, kind of in a restricted financial manner, that they're going to give up on those guys anytime soon. They're in a good spot as it is. They're competing at a high level without three of their starting pitchers, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Bryce Miller. So I would expect, yes, the Mariners will be active. Jerry DiPoto, like A.J. Preller, is an active GM. But it's hard for me to see them trading any of those guys unless they get a 0 to 3 plus player in return. What I'm talking about is a young player who is cheap. Could you trade a prospect for a guy who's already maybe in the big leagues and doing it? I guess, but these trades, a lot of them that we're discussing, they're easier said than done, and it's just going to be really tough, in my estimation, for DiPoto or any GM sitting on some good prospects to get the value he wants. And in the Mariners' case, they're going to need those guys, and they're doing just fine. So we'll see how this plays out the next couple of months, but I don't think that happens.
Yeah, I don't either. And we'll go from the AL West to the AL East. A question from Jay Braun on the Baltimore Orioles. Ken, given the Orioles' recent performance downturn and obviously the dismissal of Brandon Hyde, how do you assess Mike Elias's role in these developments? That's an interesting question about Mike Elias. Should his position be under constant scrutiny?
It should. And I've kind of talked about this on Foul Territory. I've talked about this on Fox. We've talked about this at length, and I've written about it. Yes, this is mostly on Mike Elias. Now, that team, the way they were playing, I could understand why they fired Brandon Hyde. I was watching their game Friday night, the night before the firing, and I was thinking to myself, and this is years of experience watching this kind of thing, I'm thinking to myself, they're playing like a team that's going to get its manager fired. And sure enough, the next day it happened. But Mike Elias, and he has said this week when he finally spoke to the media after 3 days of not speaking about the firing, he acknowledged that the roster construction is his responsibility, and there's no doubt that it's his responsibility. What we don't know is ownership's feeling about Elias and about how everything has gone down. David Rubenstein and his group, they're new, and what they're doing or not doing behind the scenes is unknown. Their willingness to react or not react is not known as well. But I would expect, yes, that Elias is under scrutiny right now. He has to be under scrutiny because of the way that they have collapsed. And I wrote about this today in the Windup, the Athletics free daily baseball newsletter. You play for tomorrow, which the Orioles have done, right? They've played for tomorrow. Sometimes tomorrow never comes.
Not a question. And this is a team that had such high hopes. Ken obviously winning over 100 games recently, and now they may not even make the postseason. I understand that the rotation is decimated, but their young stars are not hitting, and this team has more questions, it seems, than answers. A good response to this, let's talk, first of all, when Shawn Michael is weighing in, when are we going to talk about Riley Green? This guy is the biggest Tigers fan. Shawn Michael, always a participant here on Fair Territory. We appreciate you. When are we going to talk about Riley Green as a top 5 candidate for MVP, top 5 in home runs, RBI, OBP, top 10 in hits? We get it, Shawn. We get it. Ken, talk about Riley Green. Go.
I love Shawn, and if I'm not mistaken, he's been contacting me in one form or another for years. And I love his passion about the Tigers. And let's face it, he's right. Riley Green is a top 5 MVP candidate at this moment. I haven't given this too much thought. It's May 22nd. Not really time to think about MVP. But if the season ended today, sure, he'd be in the conversation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And not to confuse Riley Green of the Tigers with Riley Green, the country singer. I just want to make sure everybody knows the differentiation. He's not MVP. That would be Morgan Wallen if I was voting. All right, here's another question for you, Ken. How do teams that need bullpen help, which is everybody, address this concern at the time in the season? Most trades don't start until halfway through July. For teams that need help now, where will that come from? That's a great question. This is from Sprucey _11.
It's got to come from within, and that's really the only answer I can give you there. It is very rare to see trades at this time of year. Now, there are waiver claims. There are pitchers who are designated for assignment that maybe you can pick up and turn them into something. Teams often try to do that. I believe Luke Weaver kind of fell into that category at some point a couple of years ago. That's an example. But it's really difficult. And trades just do not happen for the most part this time of year. They're not unprecedented, not unheard of. Luis Arraez last year. But for the most part, you've got to find solutions within, and it's not easy for teams to do.
Yeah. All right. Last question here on Grillin Ken. This one is from Baseball Tossed. How bad is Luis Roberts' trade value?
It's not great. And the White Sox hope was that he'd come out and play to his ability, his potential. And he has the contract, a couple more years left at fairly sizable money. So I would say right now it's not good. I know he's stolen a ton of bases. And listen, the physical ability is top, 5% in the game. But he just has not put it together the way teams would want. He has stayed healthy. That's a good sign. But I would say his value is kind of minimal right now.
I also feel like he's been talked about in terms of trades for quite some time, and it keeps going down as far as the value is concerned. All right. By the way, just going to finish this segment. Everyone Hates Us says that AJ Preller would rather eat glass than punt on a season. I believe that to be correct.
I would say that's true. And first of all, they're 7 over. They're right in the thick of this thing. They've had a bad week. They're not a team that should be looking to do anything from a sell standpoint. Now, if you want to spin guys and bring in other guys, that's AJ, what he does. But they're not selling. That's kind of an inconceivable concept for them.
Yeah, that's funny. I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is safe with the San Diego Padres. All right, we're going to be back right after a break with Dude and Dork of the Week.
If you're a card collector or you'd like to get into card collecting, may I suggest Arena Club and slab packs, which means that you can rip the packs digitally and, of course, get the card that you want. It's also the most trusted name in the game, and I would rather rip packs these days on my phone than sit next to you and have you grabbing one of my physical packs if I was grabbing one.
Yeah, you don't need me grabbing your packs, because last time you grabbed one, it ended up like this card. So let's not have that, and that's why Arena Club is great. They send them to you in these fancy protectors like this Scout Brown card that we have here, and they'll come safe. They're already graded. Or you could do like I do and just leave my cards in the showroom and never actually see them physically.
Yeah.
But they're safe, protected, and if I want to sell them, I can.
Buy, sell, trade. They offer full transparency, showing every card in the slab pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FAL and use code FAL.
Dude.
Okay, Dude of the Week is here. It is our time to give some praise to a player, an organization, an entity. Ken, we'll go with you first. You have honors. Who is your Dude of the Week?
Alanna, I am going to wave the white flag, in my case, a white piece of notebook paper. That's all I have, on the Angels. Now, on Friday, I wrote a column critical of basically Artie Moreno for the way he's handled or had handled the Ohtani situation over the years. All the blown opportunities, one thing after another. It was pretty critical. Since then, the Angels have not lost a game. 6 straight wins, 6-game winning streak, which started with a sweep of the hated Dodgers. Angels, Dudes of the Week.
I love it. They don't often get to be Dudes of the Week, so good for them. I originally was going to go with Will Benson of the Cincinnati Reds. He was the most recent player of the week. He's had a really good year. But I will say this. Zach McKinstry and Aaron Nola are my Dudes of the Week because they have been named the first MVPs of the season. And what I mean about that is the Players Trust Ken announced that they are the first most valuable philanthropist of 2025. So Zach McKinstry of the Tigers, Shawn Michael, and Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies, they will award a $10,000 grant in both Nola and McKinstry's honor to support the charitable work off the field. Zach's work with BBQ Mission, a Phoenix area nonprofit, feeds unhoused members, and Aaron's is contributing his grant to support the tireless work on behalf of the ALS Association, as well as support the veterans through his work with Team Red, White, and Blue. So congratulations to both Zach McKinstry and Aaron Nola. I love to see players giving back and using their platform for good. Speaking of not good, here is the John Fisher Dork of the Week. Okay, Ken, who do you have? Who are you pointing your finger at this week?
All right, I'm going to be a little bit careful here because I have all the respect in the world for Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, and I look forward to one day voting for them first ballot Hall of Fame. Both have been great pitchers, great representatives of the game, you name it. But my dorks of the week are going to be more of a general dork. It's teams that are giving these guys money still. And you saw the San Francisco Giants pay Verlander $15 million. You saw the Toronto Blue Jays pay Max Scherzer $15.5 million. Max has pitched 3 innings this year. He's 41. He's going to be 41, I should say. Verlander just went on the injured list. He's made 10 starts. He's a below league average pitcher at this stage, the way he has performed just this year. And it's just not happening. So he's 42. And listen, these guys have had great careers, but you can't keep giving them money when they're not going to be performing at the levels that they used to perform. We all keep thinking, including me, that, man, they're coming back, they're going to be great, and it's just not happening for them.
I think the ship has sailed on their first ballot Hall of Famers, but I agree with you. I'll take the money. I mean, if we're just giving money to, like, also rans and has-beens and those types of things, I'll take the money, Ken. All right. So my dork of the week is Mike Elias, and you and I had discussed this a little bit in the show previously, but he is surrounded by a very young core of players, and for him to step away from his team and leave it up to the manager and these players to answer a lot of the questions after the very difficult year that this club has had. And obviously the firing of Brandon Hyde, he kind of steps away, says he needs to collect his thoughts. I mean, that's an issue. When you are a president of a team, that's part of the job. I mean, to whom much is given, much is expected. And this is a team that is not doing well. So Mike Elias is my dork of the week. All right, much more to come on Fair Territory. Right now, we're going to say goodbye to our friends over at Nesson, Sportsnet Pittsburgh, and Nesson Nation. We say goodbye to you for now. We look forward to seeing you next week. All right, we want to say hello to our friends at BetMGM. Always appreciate them being a part of the Foul Territory platform. Before we go, let's shout out BetMGM First Bet. $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at betmgm.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If it does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ken, you have a big game this weekend, a big series, if you will, for your duties over on Fox. Of course, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers coming off of a 4-5 homestand and the New York Metropolitans. I tell you what, Ken, you give us a preview of this series, but who is not on the IL for LA?
Well, it's rather amazing. And the other day on Fair Territory, I talked about the Dodgers and I kind of mocked the idea that they were going to run away. And I said, see, people, it's not happening. They're not ruining the sport. And CJ Nitkowski on X, my friend CJ, who is, of course, a great Braves announcer, pointed out that, listen, they got $100 million on the IL right now, and they're still in first place. That's kind of not a great thing. I get it. CJ had a good point there, and they do have a ton of players still on the IL, 14. That's the most in the majors. Obviously, they've got a lot of good players who are actually healthy, and that's what's carrying them forward. As for the Mets, they're interesting too because the Soto stuff, and you see the Dodgers right there. Through 50 games, this is where they bid pretty much
Very
every
similar.
year from 2021. And the difference now is they have all these injured players, and they're still right there. And I was going to say with the Mets, clearly the biggest concern right now, the biggest question, the biggest talk is about Juan Soto. And to me, some of this is noise, and some of this is just a reaction to him not starting the way he started with the Yankees last year and played with the Yankees last year. But as far as his body language and his supposed unhappiness and all this stuff, I expect it to go away. And I expect he's going to be Juan Soto again. I expect we're going to see the strut before at some point this season. I just don't think that Juan Soto has suddenly turned into this pumpkin. And yeah, he's probably struggling with the adjustment a little bit. He struggled with the adjustment when he got traded from the Nationals to the Padres a couple of years ago. And it seems to me that something's going on with him, with the lack of hustle at times. I'm not quite clear on what it is, but I do expect that he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and honestly, if you do Soto math, he's really not that far below where he needs to be. I think he's going to be just fine. Well, we always appreciate everyone joining us here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Ken's going to be back, of course, with a brand new, fresh episode on Monday. Do not forget that Foul Territory is next. AJ Pierzynski, Eric Kratz, Scott Braun. Also, Chandler Rome is going to come on, welcoming reigning NL Player of the Week, Will Benson of the Reds, and Mariners rookie pitcher. Coming up, Logan Evans and the Athletics, of course, Chandler Rome joining as well, co-host of Crush City Territory. And then Dodgers Territory is on with me and Clint Pasillas. Mark Pryor is our guest. We'll see you next week, Ken. Thanks so much.